This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
Gorgo, just a warning, this episode contains references to graphic sexual activity, bodily harm and other heavy topics that some listeners might find distressing. It's definitely not suitable for kids and we advise caution. If you need support, please call 1-800-RESPECT or Lifeline on 13 11 14. That's 131114. To She Wasn't Born Yesterday for women who are 40 plus fabulous by the Empty Nest Chicks. I'm Janet Evans, ex-M&T Saatchi advertising creative who have won numerous radio and TV awards. Not that that'll affect us because we're doing a podcast.
And I'm Dr. Amelia Haynes, who has been a medical doctor for 30 years and specialising in sexual health and mental health and relationships, and I'm generally a very useful human being.
Well, we'll find out about that, but we are here to work together.
People tell me on good authority that I am.
Really? Yes, well, they never say that to me, so I think we're the perfect hosts for She Wasn't Born Yesterday. Well, gorgeous, we are here today to talk to someone who has a very, very interesting story. But before we chat to her, I just want to know, have you ever been in jail?
No.
Have you ever worn handcuffs? Or is that maybe a different episode? I don't know.
Janet.
Yes?
No, I have not.
Oh, you can tell me. I mean, I know. We're a very open sort of podcast.
Yes. And I like to say very openly, actually boringly, no.
Oh, wow. Not even, no. Okay. Well, have you ever visited anyone in jail?
And even that, which I'm a bit embarrassed about, actually, no, I have not.
Oh, I see. Right. I thought you were talking about the handcuffs again. But
No,
we've moved on. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's very interesting because I have a feeling that most people do not think about what it's like inside jail unless you've experienced it yourself or you know someone who's in there and you've gone to see them. I mean, the only sort of visions we get of jails really are from movies, which is like the
Hollywood.
Yeah,
Hollywood.
Which actually isn't that great. I mean, Silence of the Lambs was beautifully lit and I sort of got that sense of, buzzers going off and, that
but
dramatic...
we don't know.
The walk down the thing and there he was, illuminated in the cell, staring at Clarice. But, but the Shawshank Redemption, all that kind of thing, which was pretty horrible as well. It was interesting because we found out that there's currently around 43,000 people in Aussie jails.
That's huge.
Which is a lot of people. And 10% of those are kids who are aged 10 to 17, which is pretty young. I mean, that's awful to be in jail as a 10-year-old.
It's unfathomable.
I can't
to most of us.
it. Yeah. And it also costs us taxpayers about $150K a year to keep one of these prisoners in jail. So I can't do maths, but I think that's a lot of money, and it sounds like
it is a lot of money.
Pretty good salary. I'm wondering who gets that money. But anyway, today we are chatting with someone who is 40 plus, very, very fabulous. She's head of resource management for a leading ad agency. I could do an ad for it if you wanted me to, but I won't. Who has had a very interesting experience with the New South Wales prison system, and her name is Giles. Welcome to She Wasn't Born Yesterday.
Thank you so much. That was a pretty incredible intro. I love that you've done some research and you've got the stats.
She's a research girl. This one.
I love to crunch a number.
Yeah,
along with a few other things.
It's pretty frightening when you actually see it from that point of view. And I can tell you, having a personal experience is pretty harrowing. But actually, when you take yourself out of it and you look at the statistics, you're like, wow, this is crazy. And it affects a lot of people.
Yes. Actually, that's a really interesting point because it's not just the person in jail, it is their whole network of family, friends. Yeah.
Like it's a huge number of people, but it's an even huger number of people who are connected to those people. Yeah.
Gorgeous. You'd been with your partner Marty for about a year, is that right? When something rather dramatic happened.
Yes.
Tell us all about that.
Well, look, it's not like it was, I didn't know that it wasn't a possibility. I actually did when I met him. But we never thought that he would be convicted. We never thought that we thought he'd go to court, he'd get off, it'd be okay, and we would just go on with our lives. And I was like in this strange position of having met someone a bit later in life, when you meet someone, you're over 40, and I hadn't even thought that I would be single at that point.
Yeah.
And I met him and I just knew he was my person. So I just went with it, as you do when you're in love with someone and you know that they are the person that you're actually meant to be with.
Tell me something, Jo. Did he tell you about, like, a little bit about this? Like, how soon after he'd met you?
I knew straight away.
Oh.
Yeah, because and he's a very straight up person.
Yeah.
He's very honest and direct.
Actually, I think that's nice. That's actually really nice. Anyway, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of, and I knew the whole story. I knew what had happened. I did my research, and because of the nature of what he was going through and who he was, there was actually a lot on Google. So I could actually do some research. Yes. So I could do a lot of research and I could find out. And he was very open and answered any questions. The only one that was actually important to me was what his relationship with his kids was like, and was his ex-wife supportive? Because I thought that's really telling. If someone's ex-wife is supportive of what he's going through, and she really was, and his kids are very supportive of him and he still sees his kids, then that sort of lent to the sort of man he was. So, yeah, so I knew straight away and I went into it with my eyes open, I thought, because for him too, we both thought that we were going into it with our eyes open. As I said, I knew he was the one pretty much straight away, actually.
Wow.
I know.
Is he into sunrises and ducks?
He's into sunsets and he tolerates the ducks.
I love that for you. Now, gorgeous, so are you able to tell us a little bit about what he was charged with or what was hanging over his head at that point?
Absolutely. It's all public. It's all public record. That's the one thing you know about the court system, is you can find out absolutely anything. He was charged with probably the worst crime that I don't know, especially for women. It was a domestic violence related crime, but that didn't really come out. And it was aggravated sexual assault occasioning actual bodily harm. So the worst, which conjures up the worst kind of rapes, which they don't call it now. It's sexual assault. It's conjures up a lot of things, and it means even worse, so it's terrible. And I think even if we'd known just how bad that was as a charge, I think I would have been, and if I'd not been around longer, I probably would have asked the solicitors to try and change the charge, because what he was actually convicted of was so small in comparison. It's a little grubby. It related to inserting his finger up his ex-girlfriend's anus for 3 to 4 seconds. That's the whole thing. That's the entire conviction. Her story was that it was unconsensual, which is why it was a crime, and his was that it was during consensual sex. He has been a well-known actor in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this was his girlfriend. They broke up, and it was a pretty toxic relationship the whole way through. Yeah. And they had a pretty messy breakup. That was quite a big fight, and it was something that he's not very proud of, and he went through it in absolute detail in court. Like the whole thing was in absolute detail. So you're sitting there hearing it all as well. It's crazy. Yeah. Sitting there with the press too. It's quite just insane.
Did you have much support yourself from friends you really care about, or were you quite isolated listening to it?
Like his friends were incredibly supportive, and they had become my friends, but I was more concerned about him. I didn't even think about what I would need at that moment, and especially during the trial, I wasn't thinking about myself at all. I was worried about him and how he got through it and what we would do next, and just went straight into survival mode when he was convicted. And it's very cinematic in the way I think about it now.
Yeah. So it's like in the movies where they go to the foreman of the jury. Was there a jury and they go guilty or not guilty? And they say guilty.
It's similar. There was actually 3 charges too which were thrown out, and because the judge had actually said that there was nothing really much behind them, which there wasn't. They were completely trumped up. So, no, what they do is the jury comes in. I think you've probably seen it this way as well in the movies, where they hand it to the judge.
Oh, yes.
They hand the paper to the judge that says everyone in agreement, and he reads it, and then he reads it out. So they went through to the first 2 counts and they were not guilty. And so we were sitting there hopeful on the third count, and then he just said guilty.
Wow.
We knew straight away what that meant. We were prepared. Marty was much better than I was. Like, he had actually prepared himself and myself for it. I stood up. The court was then discharged. I was standing there. I was allowed to stay there, and I could go over and talk to him. And he handed me his wallet, anything else he had on him, like his belt, his shoelaces, stuff like that, that they take off them anyway.
Yeah.
They suggested that we give him $50 out of his wallet to take with him. I had his phone, and then they took him away.
Wow. And how had he prepared you? Like, how had he done that?
He talked about the fact that, like, if the worst happened, what to do with his house, what to do with his things,
right?
That he would be okay. His plan was to read, to sit in a jail cell and read, and he knows he shouldn't have been in the situation he was in. He knew it was toxic regardless of the outcome. So he was just like, I'm just going to let it go, and whatever happens, it's the end of this cycle. So whatever it happens, we can move forward. Was his? He was quite
a good way
philosophical.
Yeah.
And how long was he sentenced for?
Sentencing comes a bit later.
Oh, okay.
So they don't tell you. They don't tell you at the time. It ended up being about 7 months later.
Okay.
Long time.
Yes, a long time. So he got 5 on the top and 2.5 on the bottom. So that means that's what I know the whole language around all this is strange. Yeah. So that means he's in jail for 2.5 years, and then he's got 2.5 years on parole.
Right.
So that's what that means.
That's huge. And you believe, and he claims he was innocent, is that right?
100%. Yeah. And it's like there's so many things around it that we just know it didn't happen like that. I mean, even the facts that she said in court was that he did that to her while she was fully clothed with her back against the wall.
Well, that's hard.
Yes. It's
Dr. Amelia's a doctor, so she would know.
Yes, like it's things like that it's kind of like, that's really strange. And his story, which is around the act of sex, was much more plausible. Look, he's such an honest person. He cannot tell a lie. Sometimes I wish he would try.
Well, this is a very testing thing to have happened. How long had you actually been together when when he was removed from you?
1 year exactly to the day.
Right.
Wow.
Like it was actually the anniversary of the day we met.
Wow.
That he was convicted, and my mother's birthday.
And so where was he sentenced to go to?
When you're sentenced, you get sent to another jail. But what happens initially is they go through processing so that you actually can go to a number of jails before you actually go to the jail that you're actually sentenced to, because you get classified. It's a very involved process. What happened was he initially got taken to Central Booking, which is in Surrey Hills, which is horrible, it's horrible, where the cells the lights are on 24 hours a day. There's no natural light. It's very Guantanamo-esque, I'd say, by the sounds of it, by the descriptions I've got. And then he was there for a couple of days, and then he went to Parklea. Now, Parklea is a notoriously bad jail. It's privately run. It's quite a bit of corruption goes on there, and really wasn't overly pleasant. He was there for 3 months and then got moved without us even knowing. When we were there for visits, actually, we just showed up for visits and weren't told you can be moved at any point. And so we're just told
they could just say, sorry, he's in Bathurst now.
When they can't even say where he is. They don't tell you where he's going. Okay. They just say he's on transport.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, and then he went to Silverwater, and he was there until sentencing. And then he ended up at Kirkconnell, which is a minimum security sort of farm-like jail with not loads of fences and stuff.
Yeah, I have never even heard of it before in my life.
Where's that? Where's Kirkconnell?
It's between Bathurst and Lithgow, and it's in Sunny Corner.
Oh, and was it?
Well, occasionally. It's also had a lot of snow. It's actually,
yes.
Yeah, wow.
So from the moment that he was found guilty, were you guys then sort of talking to solicitors to try and appeal that sentence? Is that how it can work?
Yes, yeah. We were talking about whether we can or not. There's a few things, like it's so expensive. The court system, like it was costing him $7,000 a day to be in court.
Wow.
By the time he was convicted, he was actually pretty broke. So it was kind of, we had to sort of look at that through legal aid, and you can't do that until after you're sentenced. And
right.
well, you can. There's other ways of doing it. It's just it holds you back on going where you're going to go, and it's a very long and involved process. But yes, we did start looking into it, and we started researching it and who to talk to, and I was talking to a lot of people at that point. But my first concern was making sure he was okay and actually finding where he was. Like you don't know where they are straight away. You have to ring up and find out, and they can't tell you straight away because they don't know until they get off the truck. And you have to, get their MEN number, which is their identification number, and you have to, it's a very involved process to even find out where they are.
And very dehumanising by the sounds of it. It does sound like the Shawshank Redemption, doesn't it? Yeah. When they pull up in that bus.
Like the whole thing is dehumanising for him especially, but for anyone who's involved, you're immediately considered either a victim or less than. However you're treated, it's always less than. So you're always trying to, I'm lucky. I live in a different world to the majority of people who go through this. And so I could lift myself up and hopefully did help other people along the way. But you're constantly put down in a way.
Yes. You mean by other people who you...
by the institution and the way that they treat you?
Yes, by people, most of the people that you get on a call or from the prison guards or from everyone, you are not treated very well.
And what was it like for him on the inside looking out? What were his conditions like?
Horrible. Absolutely appalling. I mean,
really?
His first night in Parkley, it's like everyone's yelling out, telling him to neck himself and telling him he may as well end it, and that, they'll get him, and as soon as he's out, they'll get him. It's just horrible. It's things like when you actually go into jail, practical stuff like you don't have a pillow or a doona. You get a cotton blanket and a mattress, but everything else you have to buy.
Buy?
Yes, through buy-up. So they have like a weekly or a monthly buy-up, and most of the big things are in the monthly buy-up, and you can't do that unless you have money in your account. So you have to have your account set up, and that doesn't happen straight away. And it's like,
wow.
And everything is a process. So I think he went 6 weeks without a pillow, and probably a bit longer, maybe 7 or 8 weeks without a doona.
Gee.
But it's all the things, they supply the very basics, and then everything else you buy yourself. And at that point, it was even like I sent in undies and socks. I was allowed to do that. But there's very little there for them. And then, it's violent and it's cold and there's no real support. And when you first go in and before you're sentenced, there's no doctor, there's no psychologist, there's nothing. So if you were someone who drank or coffee even or smoked or were on any antidepressants or anything like that, then you've got nothing until you've seen a doctor.
You just withdrawal, unhelped. Yeah.
So even if you're on psychotic drugs or something like that, you wouldn't be able to access those?
Not normal antidepressants and things like that. Like I think if you were in for a psychological thing, I'm sure it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But for Marty,
it wasn't. I think it is. Yeah.
But it wasn't for him. He was on antidepressants and he was a smoker. They just said, well, you'll eventually see someone, because it was unrelated to his crime.
Yeah, yeah.
You were visiting him straight away? Were you able to do that?
Yeah, well, as soon as I could, which was about a week later, I'd say, maybe 10 days. But I just rang around till I could find out how to do that. And like it was about finding out, and that's not easy at all. It's a maybe that you're going to get in and you're on hold. I think I was on hold the longest, was nearly 2 hours that you're on hold.
Yeah,
So
it's like trying to reach your bank or something.
it
Only
really
worse.
is. Like hold music actually gives me PTSD. I'm like,
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Yes,
Of course. But so why is it so difficult? Like, is there not a standard process for friends and family who want to visit someone in jail?
There is. Like, there's a standard process for everything, but this is also the government. And it's interesting when you talk about the money side of it. It costs a lot to do all these things, but they don't actually spend as much as they probably should on it because this is not an election winner. Talking about people who have gone to jail being looked after does not win any politician any prizes. So they don't care. The system is not set up to care about people. It's set up to punish, regardless of what they say. It just isn't. And so all of those things that punish the people on the outside as well, because you think about families and kids and just it's just not an easy thing to go through, and it should be a lot easier. It should be a lot easier for the family. Like you read the website and it's like, we know that it's so much better for inmates and it's better for their rehabilitation if they are surrounded by family and they see people, and then they make it so hard for it to happen.
Yeah, did you end up having much contact with his ex-wife and children?
Yes, a lot. We became incredibly close, and his kids and I were already, but his ex-wife and I became very close, and we sort of did this journey together. And it was absolutely amazing for all of us and for him to know that we were doing it together. We occasionally had visits when we took the kids. We'd often take them together. I saw them. I stayed with them. I looked after the kids for her. On occasion, we had Christmases. We did things together during that period to keep him alive and there. And her sister actually said at one point to him, which was really lovely, we're all holding space for you.
Yeah.
And it was a really beautiful time in so many respects for that. And we feel very fortunate that we all had each other.
Oh, yes.
We're lucky. We've got a lot of love for each other, for our families, and a lot of people don't have that. And they're the ones that we always think about and worry about because it's harder for them. He knew he had us. He knew when he got out that he would be okay and that he had his family.
Yeah.
What sort of shape was he in when you went to see him? How was he doing along the way, along that journey?
Look, it changed from the beginning. The first thing he did was actually brilliant and so him. The first visit, and he'd gone through a lot, and he'd been dealing with people, telling him to kill himself, and he was a lot of stress, and they have to wear jumpsuits especially in Parkley, and they're white, and he came out and he did the Elvis pose. Because the first thing I saw, so we've gone through all the stress,
right?
And I've just gone through my first. Going through being searched and walking through a jail.
Being patted down.
Yes.
The whole thing. And he comes out and he's like, ta-da. And it was so Marty. And it was beautiful because straight away I was like, he's still there. Like regardless. Yeah. And I just went, we've got this. We can do this. A few weeks later, it wasn't so good, and we had a really bad one where he was like, you have to leave me. You cannot be with me.
Oh, no.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, no, hold on, I'm here. It was very difficult. And he can't even remember this now, but he did consider whether he would take up the other inmates on their advice and end it.
Yes.
It did cross his mind in a particularly difficult point where he'd been transported to a court date that didn't happen, and no one told him anything all day. And when transportation's awful because you're caged inside a metal box that's no air conditioning, you don't know where it is. You put into another metal box and you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going. And he's told nothing all day, and then he just ended up back at jail. And so it was a very bad experience. But after that, there were moments. There was one moment where actually when he first went to the minimum security, was the time he was bashed badly.
No.
And he lost teeth. He was just sitting reading a book.
Yeah.
They poured hot water on him and then got him from behind in the end. And it was a whole group of people, you know, the worst that you see on TV.
Yeah.
Immediately after it had been broken up and he was being taken to sick bay, he got on the phone and just said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'll get moved. This has happened. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. Don't worry, just in case someone rings you.
Don't worry. That's a tricky one.
It is. And then when I saw him, he's there and he's got no dentist, no painkillers, nothing. You can see things in his mouth and it's terrible. He's in so much pain. And it's like, he had to wait his turn for the dentist.
Yep.
And that's our situation. And a lot of people go through so much worse. And at least he had someone to call. And he's like, that's what kept him going through the whole thing and why he was okay. And the fact that the Koori population inside looked after him and they took him in.
Okay.
I know.
Why was that, do you think?
Just kindness. There's kindness everywhere. Some people just decided he was the new guy, and because he was known, they targeted him and then they stole all his stuff out of his room, and they were expecting him to ask to be moved, but he was like, I've got to stand my ground, and if you don't in this situation, then it's going to be the same everywhere you go. So he stood up to it, and so they said, you're standing up to this, so why don't you come and stay where we are? And they went and they got all his stuff back from all the other inmates, and they fed him,
amazing.
Looked after him, really, really incredible what they did. And he will never forget that situation. Yes.
And is he still in touch with some of those people?
He is. He's in touch with quite a few people. Yeah. And we see people occasionally who get out. I mean, it's one thing people don't know outside of the system. 98% of people inside get out. And they are neighbours and they are in our communities. And so we really should be trying to look after them better than we are because they need to get back into society, and a lot of them are bitter and sad and don't have anything.
But so how long was he in there altogether for? That was his sentence, but did he serve out the full sentence?
You do. You serve out your full non-parole. Okay. You cannot get out. There isn't good behaviour in New South Wales anyway. Okay. So you serve your whole sentence. You may have day release, you may have a few other things along the way, but you actually serve the non-parole period as you're instructed to by the courts. So, he served 2.5 years.
Yeah. Did he sort of get used to it in a way during that sentence, or was it always just the worst experience? No. Okay.
You never get used to it. And it's like living in, he describes it now as like living in constant fear, because even if it gets better and you're more used to it and you know your way around, it's still a very violent place to be. Even the most minimum security of places is a violent place to be. And you're constantly put down, I guess, in a way. It's probably the easiest way, by the screws.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And they obviously don't prevent any of this sort of gang violence from happening, like prisoners being attacked by other prisoners.
I would imagine they think of things, but they obviously maybe are very hard to kind of enaction in any useful way. Hey, it does sound like the really big factor for him being able to psychologically be there was knowing that you and his children and so on were there, like saving a space for him the whole time. Like he had that in the back of his mind the whole time to be able to survive it.
We made sure of it. Well, I wrote to him every day. I posted a letter to him every day, which helped me get through it as well. It was like talking to him every night. I would make sure I'd written him a letter. So he had so many things and constant visits. There's not many people who get visits every week. Yeah. And he did. There would have been out of 3 or 4 people probably that get visits every week.
Yeah.
But we had some pretty interesting times too in visits. So I've got to say.
Please tell us about anything you feel like you can at this point.
Or even things
Well,
you can't tell us.
Well, I could even tell you well, look, most of it's public, to be honest. Everything's public. And stuff that happens when it happens in a prison system, it's happening in a public place.
Yeah,
it's
true,
like
yeah.
it's a public thing. It's a government run institution. I have stood in queue with Alan Jones as he went in to visit someone.
Okay. I've stood in queue with Alan Jones too, but it was getting to an elevator.
Oh,
It's a bit more boring. Okay. Yeah.
You were still in prison with him, though.
And Eddie Obeid was in with Marty.
Oh,
And,
really?
Yeah. And his family are really quite lovely, very lovely. And he got visits every week.
Yeah.
So
He's a
he
big
was in the
family.
minimum security prison the same as Marty?
Yes.
Really? Okay. And what does minimum security actually mean?
It's not as harsh an environment for a start. It's in a nicer setting and you can see a little bit more of it. When you first go in, it's still similar to every other jail that you've seen, and it's got high fences and you're in different pods and stuff, but you're just in a nicer setting. There's trees and stuff around you, whereas in the city jails or in some of the other, like Bathurst and Lithgow, you probably don't see a lot of it. When you go up, they call it up the top, there's a couple of different variations that you work your way up. You can, if you're a model prisoner, you do go through different stages. And then you've got more freedoms where you're only locked in at night and you're in like a cabin sort of situation, and it's not as much like a cell as it was before. So it is quite different in that kind of minimum security situation. And there's no fences and stuff around. They're just ordinary gates and stuff. So people have escaped in the past, but you don't want to escape either, because if you escape and you're caught, because you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
You are going to get caught. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
Then you're not there anymore. You go somewhere a lot worse.
Yeah.
And you've got an E at the end of your name. And
Escapee.
yes. And that just means that you don't have as many rights as they do.
Yes.
What was the food like in there?
Oh, terrible. Oh, my God. It's absolutely appalling. The food
Really?
Prisoners, they end up like MacGyver. They can make amazing things out of nothing.
Wow.
You get buy-ups, so they'll buy noodles or they'll buy baked beans or they'll buy whatever just to supplement the food that they're actually given. But the food they're actually given is terrible. It's interestingly, I watched How to Make Gravy last night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, the movie. Yep.
It's not like that at all. There's no kitchen in most of these jails. The food is delivered on a truck.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
Yep.
Like on an aeroplane. Aeroplane food.
Room
But-
service.
yes, exactly. You obviously know a little bit about it, Amelia.
No, I'm just imagining. No.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
you might know from that.
No.
Knows everything.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very much like that. And then when he was in Parkley, I got very descriptive letters about how the food was delivered and fruit thrown at your door. And, it's just, it's pretty strange, a lot of it. And things like there's boiled eggs that are frozen and then you get them and they're half defrosted. So if you imagine a half defrosted boiled egg, which is starting to go soggy and it's not nice.
The
It's
smell.
not nice. Yeah.
Wow. So it's not very nutritious. So
No.
I think that affects you a lot psychologically too, doesn't it? I mean,
Sure.
if you're not eating well, you're not actually fueling yourself and feeling good about anything.
No.
If you're malnourished.
I know. I'm thinking about whether or not we're using our money, the money that we were just talking about, to the best of its ability. By the sounds of it, it's not maximised.
Not at all. And they go for the lowest common denominator all the time in institutions, where it's like, because like drugs get shifted around jails, it's like anything like that is considered a means of being able to share drugs rather than being able to share nutrition. And a lot of people aren't thinking about that. They're just thinking about getting through the day. They're not thinking about, getting hold of some drugs.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting that they don't set it up a little bit better, and so that it's cheaper. Can you imagine if they set up jails more like they do? Like the Norwegian system's amazing. Like it's absolutely incredible when you read about that. And
surprise, the Scandies do it again. Anyway, keep going. Yes, interested.
And they do it not just, and it just shows you their prison population is shrinking over there.
Yes. Actually, I've heard that. Yeah.
Because they're looking after them.
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
counter psychology.
Yeah. And yes, people do bad things, and a lot of people who are inside deserve to be there. But do we want as a society to make them better and help them, or do we want to make it worse and just lock them up and throw away the key and consider them non-people for the rest of their lives, because that's what happens.
It's a really interesting ethical dilemma, isn't it? Because, I genuinely think that after a certain length of time, and everybody's length of time is probably different, you would change, and, you might have been quite young when you committed a crime and things move on. But for society to accept that, it's very difficult.
I was going to say, I'm part of the society that doesn't totally accept that, actually.
That's
which we do not need to discuss.
No.
I was going to ask you why you think
I don't think people change very much over a lifetime. That's all.
No, I genuinely think you can. I mean, I think
there are lots of research that would suggest that you can't.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later in the car on the way home.
I would say
Marty doesn't sound like a kind of personality disordered, antisocial personality disordered kind of psychopath.
No, he's not.
Those are the kind of people who can't change. So,
Okay.
It's another discussion. Don't worry, it's another discussion.
Gorgeous, how did he get his parole straight away?
Yeah, tell us about that.
Tell us about the good news, how he actually got out.
Tell us about the kind of,
he broke
the
out.
end. Yeah.
Can I tell you one other thing before I do that?
Of course
one
you
more
can.
thing. Because I am in a different situation to a lot of people. I happened to actually come upon the Minister for Corrections.
Oh.
You just happened to come across him.
I did.
Stalking him.
Actually just in my day-to-day. No, just something to do with work, and there was a walk-on in Manly, and he happened to be there, and he was opening it, and it was because his other portfolio, David Elliott, he was the minister at the time. It was Veterans Affairs, so it was for that. And I ended up walking with him for 30 minutes and talking about it.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, when did you drop the bomb? Like, by the way, I have a partner.
I did it straight away because he had made an inappropriate joke in his opening about his other portfolio. Really? And then he got off the podium and walked straight into me, like literally walked up to me and said hello. And I went, hello. And I was just fuming because he put it down, and I just said, I'm sorry. It's just like you talked about your other portfolio, like it was nothing, and it's actually really important. And he goes, do you know someone incarcerated? And I said, I actually do.
And you said, well.
And we had a really big, and to his credit, he said, would you like to talk about it? And because we were there to walk and talk. We were there about mental health. So it was really interesting. But it's like things like that happen. So I do get the other side of it. I do. But he knew. He was the one that said to me, the reason why I wanted to bring it up, he was the one that said to me, there is a lot of people in jail who shouldn't be there. We lock people up when we shouldn't. Right. And it does not work for everyone. And it's just the system we've got. I was very much like, well, you're the guy to change it. Why aren't you changing it? So I gave him a bit of grief back for it, but he did understand, and we did have a really good conversation about it.
Yeah.
But, Marty's parole, it's nerve-wracking, the whole thing. You go through a process of, you know that it's coming up, and you know that it's going to go before the board, and then he'll get told. He's not there. It's not like Shawshank where you go and stand there. And
that's right. Yes or no. The stamp or no stamp.
But you are told whether your parole is being accepted or not. And then there's quite a thing around where you're going to go when you get out. So I was interviewed because he was coming to live with us, and they came and saw our house and made sure, it was there, because apparently some people give fake addresses.
Of course.
And they're vacant lots. They make sure it's there. They make sure, that the situation's fine. They also are concerned the whole time because of the crime. They're asking me whether I'm safe, whether I'm coerced and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the whole way through, I'm being asked that. And at the time, I found it really frustrating, but I understand it. And I'm really glad that's there for people who really are victims.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you were frustrated, because actually that's kind of very encouraging to hear that they care to that extent. Anyway, continue.
Tick in the box.
I was only frustrated because I didn't need it. I felt the whole time that, as we were talking about with the money, that it was being spent and wasted on people who didn't need it, rather than being frustrated that it was part of the process. That was one thing I thought was really good. And then, you end up with a date. You're told to turn up and what to do. And, well, not much. Actually, I'm not told what to do at all at any stage. You just got to find it out. But I'd watched other people. So and you get used to watching. You get used to asking your fellow visitors that stand by you shoulder to shoulder. You get used to, because you're not going to be told by the system for us. Marty got told, what he would be doing on that day, and he had to be fitted for a monitor. So he's monitored for his parole as well because of his crime.
Yep.
So I rock up nervous. I was early to visits too, like every week, because nothing was going to stop me. So I was really careful not to be in the car park too early, because they do make you go and drive up to the end of the street again occasionally if you're there too early.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't like you being in the car park even. And then it wasn't very pleasant, actually, because I went to walk up, which is what I'd seen everyone do, walk up to the main gate.
Sure.
And a guard ran down, was like yelling at me, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You can't be here." As I said, I've watched so many people do this.
Yes,
I'm like, okay, no problem. He goes, "Wait in your car." I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then he said, he may not be getting out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, the monitor isn't picking up a signal. So until we get a signal, we can't release him. I just sat there and waited and watched all the people come in for visits and queue up. And a few people came over, and the regulars came over and said, "Oh, it's really great that he's getting out." And I'm like, yep, just waiting.
As long as technology works, he might be getting out.
You need a help desk.
Do you know, I was like, I am staying. I don't care what happens. I am staying. They can lock me up if they want to, but I am not leaving here without him, and I am staying here. He's been told he's got it. We've got the paperwork. We've jumped through the hoops. It's enough already. And I was very like, I am just staying here. So I was quite stoic.
Quite bolshy, I'd say.
Well, you kind
of quietly bolshy.
I wasn't. This is all internal dialogue.
Yeah.
Which started to get a little bit more external, because they started being a little bit nasty to me. There's this one prison guard who would come down to see me, and he was almost flirting. It was
my goodness,
revolting. And he was just like, it was absolutely revolting. And
I feel like collectively, everyone who listens to 40 Plus Fabulous will be going, ooh. Anyway,
so I think that's where the bullshit came from. It's like, because I was like, this is not going to get to me. So I'm like in the car with the window this much at the top open, tiny bit. Eventually I see him. So probably an hour and a half later, it's usually they come out straight away. As I said, watched it a few times from the visits, and it's usually pretty quick. But then out he came. We're just looking at each other going, it's okay. Let's just get in the car calmly and drive away.
As fast as possible.
Yeah.
Slowly and calmly, and not like a hoon.
Slowly.
Not like a hoon, Janet.
Don't get arrested.
Yeah. Exactly.
As we drive, we're not even out the gate, and I get a call from another prison guard saying, "We know how that prison guard treated you. You should complain. You should." It was just this really weird sort of politics that they were playing with each other. It was just so strange. So they obviously knew what they were doing. Very strange. But
like that'd be the last thing you'd want to do, is have something else to do with that prison system.
100%. I didn't. I did not bother at all. And we drove out very quietly and mindfully. I actually there's a little church over the road, it's called St. Mary's in Kirkconnell, this tiny little family church. I used to go and sit in the yard there afterwards and make I'd take a rock or something out of the prison visits and I'd go and place it there, or I had this weird little tradition, weird things that I'd never done before.
Yeah, right.
That just made me calm. I just needed to get calm. And I'd had this whole vision of when we drove away of showing Marty this beautiful little chapel that I used to go and sit outside of. Yeah. and I'm not overly religious, but I know churches are built on ley lines, and I know that there's just something special about it. There's peace. But no, he just went, shall we just go? And I went, yes.
Let's go straight to Macca's.
Actually, did you have a quiet day, or did the rest of the family did the children all pile in, or did you have it all planned?
We had it planned that the children would be the next day, because it's also a 3-hour drive.
Oh,
So the visits were...
That sounds sane.
Yes.
Very sane.
It's 3 hours there and 3 hours back. So, we just thought we'd have a quiet drive. We'd go home and then see. Sure. And I just let him ring his mates, talk to his kids. Like, he hadn't had a phone. He hadn't held money. He hadn't, there's just things like that.
Take for granted. Yep.
I asked him if he wanted to drive, and he was like, yes. So we just quiet, and we had music, Spotify. He could choose things he could choose, because he hadn't had any choice about anything. No. So we did get coffee from Macca's.
Yep.
You're allowed to confess that. Yeah.
Well, because it's not much else.
No.
So we did get coffee from the drive-through, and then we took Bell's line of road home, because that was the way I drive.
Yep. It's very nice.
Picked up an apple pie on the way.
Oh, lovely.
Because that's what I would do every week for my kids.
Yeah, yep.
And, we got home, and he spoke to us. He had some friends came over. Some of his friends came over that night, but it was very chilled. It was very, very chilled. As I said, through the whole thing, he knew how lucky he was. It's not like he wanted a big party, or he wanted...
No.
It's none of what he went through was a celebration. It was great that it was over. We certainly celebrated it ending, but in a quiet way, not in a big party way. It was still the end of a really trying time. It was the end of a terrible relationship. It was the end of a toxic time of false accusations and him losing everything, his career, his kids, his house, his time. So we just wanted to be quiet. And it was actually the first time there'd been no press either.
Yes.
Wow.
So because the prison was worried that there would be press.
Right.
But
because of his profile before.
Yes, And as luck would have it, COVID was about to hit. So everyone had other things on their mind. So,
And Gorgeous, were there any sort of long-term effects? Did he take some time to recover from the whole thing?
Look, he's changed, 100% changed, but not necessarily in bad ways. In fact, we had dinner with some friends, an old friend of his on Saturday, and he said, you actually seem more at peace and quieter and actually not as anxious now, like when you came out.
It's a hell of a way to learn any of those kind of lessons. But anyway, okay.
Mindfulness, yes. It is a hell of a way to learn mindfulness.
It is. Yeah. It is.
It's, look, and I think he's probably less tolerant in other areas as well. Like if choice gets taken away from him, he's probably more frustrated than he would have been. But I didn't know him until he was already going through the build-up for it, because the charges were there. So I knew him through that anxious time, and he is much calmer than he was. But he was immediately, like he was as soon as he went to jail. He just went, right, that's it. That time of my life is over. I am a different person now. I want to be a better person. I don't want to put up with toxicity or lean into it. Honestly, one of the favourite things that the judge said when he was sentenced was that Marty was bookended in 2 really good relationships. So he just had a toxic one in the middle, and he has learnt a very big lesson from it. But he had a great marriage to a wonderful woman, and now he's in a great relationship with me. So, and it was actually quite cool that that's what the judge said.
I was going to say the judges often make very good closing kind of statement. Perceptive. You can kind of see how they've ended up there.
So, Gorgeous, as a closing statement for us,
yes.
If someone finds themselves in your position, what's your kind of advice for them? What should they do to, get around the system a little bit?
Well, the first...
Maybe you want to rephrase that, Janet. Yeah.
That's all right.
Deal with the system.
I think getting around the system in legal ways, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Work the system in a mindful manner. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
The first thing that I would say to anyone who knew someone who'd been arrested is say nothing. Even though...
You're such a lawyer now.
Oh, honestly, everything you can do say is used against you, will be used against you and out of context. So it's like, just say nothing. Ring me.
Yeah.
Ring your parents, a lawyer if you have one, but ring your family, ring your partner, ring somebody, but don't say anything because you don't have to. They actually can't use that against you. They can't use saying nothing against you, but they can use everything you say. And you're going to be in shock if you're arrested.
Yes.
So that's why it's good advice, because you may be innocent and you may think talking is going to prove your innocence, but not without representation. It doesn't necessarily. Yeah. So say nothing. And then for your partners, for the people, for the families, it's be tenacious, find out, do research, ring, never give up, always ask questions. You have to be polite, but you should be anyway as a human. You know, always be polite because the person on the other end of the phone is just doing their job as well. But when you're faced with people not being polite back to you, just smile and walk away and find another way. It's like I had a situation where all I was asking for was margarine. And I had a kid with me. We were in visits and I was asking, when it runs out, you're meant to ask. So I went and asked. It was my turn to ask.
Yes.
And they said, you want the prison lube? This is a guard. And this is someone in visits and I'm with a kid and I'm a partner of someone. And it's like, why do they don't need to be like that. Yeah. So, and I just went, I didn't say anything. I just said, thank you as he passed it to me.
Yes.
You just don't say anything. And then you just know that their lives are smaller if they're that sort of person to say that in that situation.
Yeah.
So you do learn rising above, you do learn mindfulness, you do learn not judging anyone. The kindness we've had from inmates who are in there for horrible crimes, but there's still kindness and respect in there with them. And some of them are led to it by means that, they haven't had the opportunity, they haven't been educated, they haven't had love. They don't know what a lot of us do know. So there's a lot of privilege that I saw, that I had, and I really appreciate it now.
Yeah.
So, I just think anyone who's going through that situation, they need to know they're not alone.
Yes.
I think that's the worst bit. It's like no one talks about this. Like I'm probably quite rare in the fact that I am happy to talk about it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that you actually have gone, no,
I
will speak about this.
We really appreciate it. I mean, this is the inside story about the inside story.
Yeah.
And I think you should write a book. I think you should write a book about this because this would help so many people.
Thank you, Janet. I have written most of a book and I am rewriting it, but it's more, I have been doing it for myself more than anything.
Yes.
So
that's a good reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if I happen to know a freelance writer, so if you want some eyes over it, or
I was just going to say, you know what? When I finish this rewrite, you're the person I'm calling, Janet. I think you're the person to actually give it a little edit.
Yes, that's good.
The Evans edit. Yeah. Well, Gorgeous, we appreciate you coming on to She Wasn't Born Yesterday so much. Because
very much.
This is, as you say, a topic that isn't talked about. No one really understands what goes on.
Massively lonely, I would
behind the bars, for either the person who's been imprisoned or the visitors
family
coming to see them. And this is just a revelation, an eye-opener. And we just thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you both for being so open-minded and open-hearted to talk about a somewhat difficult subject. I really appreciate it.
Georgia, we hope you enjoyed this episode and we adore that you listen in, but we'd love to hear more from you. What you thought of this ep, what you'd like us to chat about in future, and we'd really like to thank everyone who's got in touch with us so far and suggested ideas and made comments. Thank you, gorgeous people.
So whatever you have to say, search hopepodcasts.com.au and hit the big pink button that says contact the team. We'll get back to you.
And remember, if you'd like to send us expensive gifts, just park that Lamborghini in the Hope 103.2 foyer. They won't mind.
Join us next week on She Wasn't Born Yesterday. We really look forward to your company.
Hope 103.2. Thanks for listening.